Hello, hello. It's Thursday. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. How is everybody?
Good morning.
Good morning,
What's
Bill.
that
How are
now?
you?
It's got round numbers.
Yeah, 88.
Hey, hey.
There's
Morning.
Scott.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
You on
Are you
vacation
back in?
still, Scott?
Still am. Still
Nice.
leaving Florida today, heading to Dallas. Couple more
Wow.
days there and see the wife's brother, and then we're heading home.
Well, you've had quite a trip.
Yeah. Nope.
You
Good.
just
Believe it
sort
or
of
not,
went
I'm
like,
having a sunburn.
Are you still in
Yeah.
St. Augustine?
I'm sorry.
Are you still in St. Augustine?
No, Port St. Lucie.
Oh, that's a nice place too.
And like shipping could go up, but they shouldn't charge.
Okay, so I'll get rolling here since we don't have all that much time, but it goes fast. Today's Thursday, April 24th. This is the Morning Edge. Remember, not financial advice. We're just a group of people working things out among each other and among the markets. So yesterday, was an interesting day. And let me share a little bit. This is a heat map of the ETFs. Okay. And you can see, the SPY was up 1.5, the Qs are up 2.25, Dow was up 1. Okay. Things that were down were the inverse. Again, we talked about inverse ETFs, inverse.
This is that morning meeting. Would you like to hear it?
sure.
Most of it was all green, as you can see. But it was interesting in how it was green and how it opened. We always said it's not how it opens, it's how it closes. When we look at the S&P, you can see that all the Mag 7s did well, the softwares did pretty well, communication services. We had some red in the energy sector. Okay, the financials did really well yesterday. And then, again, yesterday was a news-driven spike up, and driven by, I'm not going to fire Powell, and we're talking with the Chinese, okay, and that made everyone happy. Well, then here's today's headline. China says no ongoing talks with the U.S., calls for canceling unilateral tariffs. So now, we've got the pre-markets churning that up, and last time I looked, it was down. And so really what we're looking at is, again, a market that's not normal, okay? It's not standard. It's not in control. It's popping all over the place. It's not going up, leveling out, going down, going up. It's just popping all over. We've got several themes that I saw yesterday. One is, we opened high on just about everything, but we closed lower. Even though we closed above the previous day's closing, we still closed lower. That showed weakness going into, the close. The other thing we saw was the gaps. We opened up, we gapped up, and so you're going to see a lot of gaps on a lot of stocks that most likely are going to get filled to the downside. And again, it's just popping up, popping down. Whatever the news of the day is moving our markets. And let me show you how here. So here's the SPY. You can see we opened up right here. Then we gapped up a little bit and came back down, and then we closed. Again, here's where we're going to open today, a little bit lower. But right on the 20. We still have, another theme that I've been seeing is downtrending moving averages. So the trend is still down. And the other thing I see is momentum is still, below the 50, which, is not really positive momentum. And then the third thing, or the fourth thing, or wherever I'm at, is this big mega green candle we had, a couple Wednesdays ago. We haven't been able to close above that. And when you look back a ways, you can see we've had this before. This is right where we hit on the downtrend before we did another downtrend. You can just, like Michael says, look back and see what's going on. You can see we've had this line before on the SPY, and we're just not getting it. Okay, and this is pretty prevalent on just about everything we're looking at. Here's the Qs. Okay, here's our top of our mega candle. We just haven't been able to get above it. We're going to close or open a little bit lower again. We're still kind of in a downward type trend, but look at this, the gaps we have, gaps, another gap. We're just all over the place. We're not looking like, if I can get this to go, we're not looking like, normal where we go up, we sideways, down, or we go up, we go consolidate. If something out of the ordinary happens, again, here was the election, that popped us up sideways. We just really are all over the place. If you go and look at, since this tariff thing happened, it's just an out of control market at this point. So, getting in, getting out, you really got to watch it, because all it takes is one tweet, one press conference, and you're in trouble, or you're up a bunch. It's just that weird of a situation. Something that I've rarely ever seen. Here we have, the Dow, they couldn't even get above it. It tried, but we haven't closed above it. And again, we have a downward trend. We've got the 20 going down. We even have the 9 popping down. We got the 50 going down, and the 200 is just kind of going sideways. Oscillators really aren't doing anything. So even though we had 2 days up, from here to here, it still doesn't show me much, on the charts as far as what we're seeing. UUP, let's look at the dollar. Dollar came down. This is the UUP, the tradable dollar, hit basically where the buys were set and started popping back up. Now you're seeing the dollar get a little bit stronger. We'll see what happens today. The oscillators still don't look all that great. I don't know where these lines come from, but they show up. Gold is showing a little bit of strength. I mean, it came up, it hit resistance. Today it's up a little bit. It did come down, but it hit support on the 9. So we'll see if gold comes back up today. It looked like in preliminary, we're going to see gold go up, but again, we got some resistance at 311. When we look at, we talked about Bitcoin was catching some bids yesterday and for a while. Bitcoin's interesting because we went consolidated, then we started up, got above the 200, and then we came up and we kind of hit this level right here. And when you go back and look at this level, you can see we've had this before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times since this big spike up. So this is a pretty significant level of not only resistance but support for Bitcoin. So if we can get past this level, as we had, we've come up, hit it, up, support, and then we came down, then it's resistance again here, and now we're right up against it again. So if we can get past that level, then we're probably going to get up into this area here. You can just kind of visualize, where you can see where support and resistance is before, and that would get us, up to about 98. I think we popped up around 90, that was 95, about 95, 96 yesterday. So we've kind of come to a stall a little bit on Bitcoin. We'll see if it can pressure itself up. And again, MicroStrategy is the same. MicroStrategy came up, it's hitting this resistance level. It's amazing how charts can show you, you're in this, you look like you're going up, you're going to go up, and then you hit a resistance, or, you come down, you hit support. And it's like it almost knows what the news is going to be. It's very interesting, technical analysis. NVIDIA, always, we're still in a downward trend. NVIDIA, you look at, yesterday we started up, closed down. Okay, the 9's down, the 20's going down, the 50's going down, and even the 200's going down. So the trend is down, and we're still below the 50 on the RSI. NVIDIA came down, and we've actually hit this support level right at 101.49, and we'll see what happens today. But again, we're not seeing what we're seeing. Starting, opening a higher, closing lower. It's still within our channel, our downward channel, even though we've been up 2 days. We've done this before, up, down, up, but we're within that channel. So same with, we'll look at Meta. Meta again, it actually came up and closed right above the 9. So we'll see if that can hold. So that'll act as support. But again, downward trending on the intermediate and short-term trends. We're not seeing much on the oscillators and Meta. Google reports, I think, after the bell today. So this will be the big, reporting news today. And again, downward trend still on Google. We have not closed. Again, here's here's where the mega candle was. We haven't closed above that, and so, downward trends. So when you look at 2 days of up, go back and look at really what's happening. And you'll see that maybe it's not as good a news as you think right now, as far as the market turning around. Again, here's where we have the mega candle on Microsoft. Didn't do anything. They couldn't get past it. Downward trends on the on the 50. Got the Bollinger Bands kind of closing in. The 9 short-term trend indicator down. The 20 down. Collapsing little oscillators. So even though we went up, we just came to the upper channel of the downward trending channel here. So we'll see what happens again today. So that's Microsoft. You look at a couple of the ones that we were looking at yesterday. Kroger. This was a momentum stock yesterday. You can see what happened. Our green line intermediate resistance level came up. We came right back down to it. So this trade for me would have been over when I hit that. If I was in this, this is always a good level for me to get out. I think it's the end. Paul brought this one up. I think it's the end for TOI because we had, again, you can see what happened. This is a nice run, but runs always end, and it usually ends for me when you see this resistance level line come up. That's pretty good indication to get out. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4 times outside the upper Bollinger Band. This is more likely going to pull within the Bollinger Band. It hardly ever goes 5 or more outside the Bollinger Band. Only 5% of the time does a stock trade outside the upper or lower Bollinger Band. So this might be a good time if you were in, depending on your trading plan, to get out. Not financial advice, but that's been a pretty good indicator for me.
I sold it.
I figured you would. FIS, yesterday we looked at this. Can it get past the 200? It went up and tried. It closed below the 200, but it's still on the Bollinger Band. So, we would need to see this close above the 200, kind of back test it, and then you've got some room to run up to 84.12. But again, in these markets, who knows? But we've got upward trends on the short term. You see the 20 and the 9 are short-term trend is up. Our long-term trend, our intermediate term trend is still down, and we're still kind of flat on the 200. So there's slim pickings out there. There is some out there. This is one we've been looking at for a while. Align. Okay, Align's had a nice little run up. Finally got past the 50, went up. Same kind of pattern. We went up yesterday, opened high, closed lower, right on the upper Bollinger Band. And again, the oscillators don't look too bad. But again, it's the market we're trading in. Follow your trading plan. But if this one can run, it's got some room to run. Let's see where we're going to pull this above and see where the sell orders are. Yeah, look, it went right up to where the sell orders were and then came back down. So it's amazing how technical analysis, although not 100%, is pretty accurate once you get used to doing it and looking at it. This is an interesting one under the 200. DJT, which is Trump Media, has had a nice run, got above the 50, moved up. It's outside the Bollinger. It's going to have some resistance. You can see there's sell orders right at the 200. So we expect that to probably present some pretty good resistance on DJT. Some other ones on above the 200, which aren't too many of them. Carvana made it above the 50 yesterday, even though the 50 is downtrending. You can see the 9s kind of went sideways, but we still have an upward trending 20. So that's kind of confused on which way to trend. And again, we opened up, came back down, but we closed down below where we opened again in Carvana. You're seeing the same patterns on a lot of these stocks. Wells Fargo, we talked a little bit about financials yesterday. Yesterday, we're saying it needs to get past the 200. You saw the Bollinger Band again yesterday. It opened up right here actually closed up. This one bucked the trend. It had a, it's kind of an inverse hammer pattern here. But again, you got some sells and some more resistance above that. So, finding things, there are things out there. It really comes back to your risk and your risk tolerance. IONQ closed above a downward trending 50. You've got a lot of moving averages in one area right here, and your Bollingers are moving out just a little bit, but again, nothing really excites me to say, yeah, let's go out and buy something today. I mean, the markets are as unorganized as I've ever seen and unpredictable, and it goes back to what's your risk tolerance to say, okay, I'm going to buy into something to trade or to invest in. Just you're kind of flipping a coin. What's going to come out of the White House? What's going to come out of China? And how's that going to affect the market? And again, it swings up, it swings down. It's just not a normal market for me. So I'm still sitting and waiting. There's going to be some opportunity come up, but until things settle down, and using the word uncertainty, which the market does not like uncertainty, but it's always uncertain in the markets, but it's just more so now. So again, I'm just going to wait and see what happens. Follow your trading plans. There are some stocks out there, like we just went over, that have some potential. But I'm just I'm not going to risk the cash right now until these things settle down. So that's what I got, Trent.
All right. Well, I feel like I'm in the eye of a hurricane right now. It seems like calmness. And so I'm going to read you something here from Tier 1 Alpha. It's a options newsletter. And I'm going to bring up this picture here. Tell me when you can see it. Let me move this out of the way. And this is an excerpt from the newsletter I get in the morning today. And I think it's a bit telling, but it goes, systematic strategies remain broadly on the sidelines after undergoing the strongest deleveraging event since COVID crash of 2020. In fact, the SPX's 1 month realized volatility made a new 5-year high yesterday, breaking above 50 for only the 5th episodic period in the past 5 years. Of the prior period instances in 1987, 2000, 2008, and 2011, only the 2011 U.S. credit downgrade did not lead to further escalation. That remaining 3 events ultimately breached the 80 level in the weeks that followed. While this is too small of a sample to draw any meaningful conclusions, the one thing we can take away from this is that we're truly living through a historical period with no clear resolution in sight. And I find this interesting because history repeats itself, because humans repeat themselves. You can see that in our behavior. If you live with somebody for long enough, you can anticipate their behaviors based on certain variables and certain events. Markets are no different. And if we look back 75 years, and this chart shows us that when we go through a major deleveraging event like we are in today, like we saw during the late 80s or late 80s, we saw that during the dot-com boom bust, the housing boom bust, 2000, the COVID boom bust event. We repeat ourselves. And I think if we look back in history and we look at this and say, are we in another phase where we could see volatility spike again upwards above 80 like we have seen in the past? Could we see an opportunity event in the coming weeks ahead? I believe so. I believe we are setting up for a bust kind of event, a volatility explosion to the north side. that's going to create incredible opportunities. Today, I wrote in the 12 newsletter about valuations. And yesterday, I went on a walk, finally, and was thinking about what is a reasonable PE ratio for NVIDIA. And I was like, well, if we could see a 25 PE ratio based on forward earnings, what would that put the stock price at? And it would put it at roughly $75. And I'm like, that is reasonable. Like, you know, a tech industry PE ratio of around 25 is typically a good value point for tech stocks. And I was like, okay, this is a roadmap, a destination that I can see that NVIDIA, if it gets down into the 85 to 75 range, could be a really good buying opportunity for a short or a intermediate to long-term point of view. And if I applied something similar to that to the rest of the Mag 7, it gives me a destination point to where this could go. Now, will it get to 75? I don't know. But based on the market conditions we're seeing, the variables that are affecting this market, and things like, value, SPX's 1 month realized volatility events that we've only seen 5 times in 5 years, there's a high probability I could get NVIDIA at around $75. Now, if it goes to 55, then there's something bigger, an unknown market event that's going to drive it. But looking at some of these stocks from a reasonable valuation point, using PE as a simple metrics, I think that we're about to roll in to the next couple weeks. Maybe it's a sell in May and go away event that's going to present some incredible buying opportunities in the Mag 7, but also in Kerry's Best of US Investors fundamental research he has done. Patrick pointed out a week ago or last week about Iran getting down to about $1.45. That could be one of those events that we could see in the next week or two, or the next 4 weeks or so. And I think that's how we should start looking at this market, as an opportunity that could be presenting ourselves in the near future. Because everything seems to be lining up to present a great opportunity. And I think this is where you start to put your grocery list together and go, what companies are going to lead us out of this economic downturn? What industries are going to lead us out? And how can I allocate my money towards them? And what kind of price targets can I put on those to create opportunity to create wealth for our families? And I'm thinking more of an intermediate to long-term point of view on this, not more of a short-term trader point of view. But I think that we're being presented an opportunity that a year from now, we're going to look back and go, oh, that was when I needed to do my hardest work on identifying the companies that I believe in the most that are going to lead us out over the next 12 to 36 months. And I believe this, what we're seeing with this, only the 5th time in 75 years on realized volatility, is a sort of a indicator of what could be presented to us in the near future. So I'm a very optimistic, even though I at times don't sound optimistic. I'm optimistic because I believe this is going to be one of the bigger wealth creation opportunities in my next 10 to 15 years of my life. And I'm looking for clues. I'm looking for opportunities, and I'm creating my grocery list of what I want to buy in the future. So that's what I got today. Let's open it up to the floor. Opinions, ideas, thoughts, questions.
Prayers.
I have
Patrick?
some thoughts, but Patrick, yeah.
Patrick, you're
You're
on
on
mute.
mute. You must be drinking a glass of wine.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
he's probably back to the wine.
On squash. I just did a survey on because the VIX has been above 30 for 10 sessions, but yesterday was the first day that it fell below 30 after 10 sessions. So I went back and asked ChatGPT over the last 25 years, looking at various market crashes, is there any historical precedent? And it came up with 4. And the scenarios varied between 19% and 59% pullbacks associated with VIX in excess of 30 or more over a 10-session period. So the average was 39% pullback.
Wow.
That's after you've seen 10 consecutive days above 30.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well,
you're
yep.
kind of like our historian, Patrick. You go back and look at.
The next bit is an article from the Huff Post on the April the 8th, and I apologize in advance if there's any women listening. They may be offended, but I mightn't be politically correct. But apparently, sex workers and strippers called the recession first because they noticed that tips were down in the last 3 months.
Oh.
Yeah, and men's underwear index, sales of men's underwear have fallen. The beer index, there's been a decrease in sales of craft beer. That's down as well. And also online dating is down. Women's hemline index, hemlines tend to fall during a recession somehow.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe women be less on love during a recession. Who knows?
There's another one called the beauty parlor index, where people don't get spend as much on their hair, that as they normally would too during a recession. So
another thing, we tend to buy less expensive cosmetics. They tend to buy lipstick. Lipstick sales go up during a recession because
one to watch is Sephora's earnings and guidance, because they are in the US, they're one of the largest makeup and cosmetic retailers. That would be interesting to see what they say.
Where do they get their product
well.
from also?
Say
What's
that
that,
again?
Mark?
Where does Sephora get their product from?
Probably China.
Yeah.
It's all sitting out in the Gulf.
So that's going to be a little bit skewed
Pacific
there.
right now.
But I thought
Right.
they got a lot of that. I thought they got a lot of that stuff from guano.
Guano.
Yeah.
Patrick, in line with your stripper hooker indicator, I ran into a friend of mine who is valets across the street at one of the high-end hotels called the Pearl. And I talked to him and I was like, how was spring break? And he goes, it wasn't. And I was like, really? He goes, yeah. He says, I'm used to making like $200-300 in tips in an 8-hour shift. He said, but this time I'm making less than 100. And I'm like, are you guys fully booked? He goes, oh yeah, we're fully booked. He says, but people aren't tipping. They're pulling out dollar bills, not 10s and 20s anymore. I was like, wow. He goes, that's an indicator. And we're not even talking stock market. And he's like, that's an indicator that things are slowing fast. He goes, when rich people tighten up on the dollars.
Didn't you tell me about the rental chair indicator?
Yeah. They're not. I go on the beach walking typically.
Yeah. After
this show, not as many. Now we're going to come into the summer months. That'll be a bigger indicator. But a lot of the rental guys they're seeing a slowing. So it's not like last summer or last spring break. Yeah.
And
tightening up.
The other index, morgues tend to find that there's more unclaimed bodies during a recession as well, because people bury them.
You got to wonder what Patrick does with his free time.
I think we're finding out, Paul.
At least he drinks wine while doing this research for us.
Right, and he looks sophisticated doing it with the sweater and the collared shirt.
Yeah.
I mean, you inspired me today, but I mean, holy cow!
Well, that's
Paul. You were about to chime in there.
Yeah, I'm gonna just point out again, 2 companies. One is, Mark, if you put up the chart, you could see that Palantir holds its own through all this hiccup, the downturn, essentially. You'll see that it's got a pretty tight Bollinger Band, and I love the business model. So that's something I'm continuing to add on to.
I like
like
it because
that one.
it's just one of those that's still above the 200, you know, that's just,
Yeah.
you know, in this market, that's a good thing. What's
Yeah, and
the
the
other
other
one?
one, GEV, which announced yesterday, and they're backlogged. And they have the same, not a little wider Bollinger Band, a little more tougher to own. But the fact that they have a backlog for turbine engines for mainly energy, specifically gas, but they do wind and they do solar cells, but they're in the right space and they're global too. So I'm back into this just based on what the CEO talked about during the earnings call. So
Let
that's
me,
another one. That's
let
like
me,
grocery list. I'm buying this.
let me switch it over to a weekly. Oh yeah, see the weekly, you're above the 50, which is a good sign for a longer term hold, you know.
But yeah,
Careful
we were
here,
talking about shopping lines. We talked about shopping lists.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like from a fundamental push, not so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, chart wise, you could see it's kind of held its own technically, it's, like you said, it's very tough to find, a
yeah.
technical reason to buy things, but from a fundamentals, what companies do I want to be in when things
Yeah.
turn? Right.
Yeah, when you talk longer term, I go to the weekly chart. You know, you're above the 50. It came down, but you got to watch this resistance level. You got to get above that. We had before. Look at the last earnings. But boom, right after that, the next month it went down. That was in January. But yeah, that's what you should be doing. That's what Trent was talking about. Is you know, I got my list here of companies if it bounces back, good companies that I like that, I might go in and, implement a little bit of above the 200 or above the 50, on the weekly.
Yeah.
But it's not there yet
Take
for me,
take a look at CrowdStrike or CrowdStrike CRWD. This
Okay,
is a weekly
that's
I'm
a
looking at
weekly.
Very
Yeah.
good
above
company.
the 200, above my 62. IBM.
IBM. Yeah, that's one that's on my list too to watch.
They missed though, I think, or something happened bad with the quarter.
Yeah, here's their earnings.
Was it? Yeah, they're down 229 in the pre-market. That's a big chunk.
Let's go to the day.
Um,
Let's go to the daily and see what. Yeah, we're running. Look at this. We've been running right along the resistance level for a while before it dumped. But the nice thing is it bounced off the 200. So, it didn't keep
yeah,
going like we're seeing the S&P and that. So IBM is one of the companies that's on one of my long-term lists. So yeah.
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 Mercury Systems on Kerry's list on a weekly chart just last 2-3 days broke over the
What,
200 on a weekly chart.
what's the symbol?
MRCY.
Okay, this is daily here.
Yeah.
Let me go to weekly. Yeah. So the
Just
weekly,
broke over it.
yeah.
Yeah. Probably wait for confirmation if you're looking at the very near term, of entering down on a long term basis, but
I
showing
mean,
some positive growth side of things.
yeah,
Aerospace.
yeah.
Yeah, Mark, could you
Um,
check now service now? NOW.
What's the symbol again?
Now,
NOW now.
I didn't hear that. Someone.
It's now.
and
Service now.
Oh, now.
NOW.
Okay. Now,
Yeah, they
okay.
crushed earnings. They crushed earnings and they're a good
This
company.
is
Yeah.
this is
they're up.
weekly. This is a weekly. And for me, it dropped below the 50 weekly edge. For me on an investment, I would wait for it to get back above that, but it's nice. It's above the 200 weekly. Let's go to the daily and take a look. See what we
Pre-market,
find.
pre-market, it's at 886. So give you some insight there.
Yeah, it's right here again, hitting this resistance level. But you got some sells. You still have a longer term downtrend on the 50. It popped down a little bit on the 9, and we're on this resistance level. It's had some issues with, but it could pop up. The market and traders have it. Sellers at 842 right now. Where'd you say it's opening up at, Trent?
886.
Oh wow. Okay. That would be 886 is yeah,
It's up there.
yep. definitely.
Yeah.
But it's been kind of in the sideways consolidation, for a while. We'll see if it can bust up.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
almost reached 1100 one point. I think it's a good company though. It's yeah. So
Just
They're
remember
one of
just remember what's been happening is we've been opening up high and then coming back low. So
yeah.
don't be chasing it,
Yeah.
and that's your
Well, they're one of the companies that during that CNBC interview months ago was between Dell, ServiceNow, and NVIDIA as a partnership. And ServiceNow is more of on the software side, if I understand it correctly, is that conversion from the analog systems of software to more of the AI level of software. And they are sort of become the in-between converter or the middleman between that eventual conversion that's going to need to happen. So they could be an integral player down the road as we see a development in the switching of systems from the old school analog systems that a lot of companies still run to more of AI driven technology. So they could be a pretty big player in the long run.
Yeah, I would be careful. You ever listen to that CEO? Well,
Yeah,
Yeah, he
service
seems
now.
like he's high.
yeah, or he works for the mob or something. He's always wearing, but now
He's
trends
not
down.
he's not any weirder than the Palantir guy, Mike.
Oh
Alex.
no,
Yeah.
no.
I mean, they're all a
their
little
earnings
weird.
call is this morning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Google, I think, is after the bell. That'll be interesting to see what they say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
I think we're coming into the heat of the earnings season with the big tech companies, and I think a lot of people are going to be leaning on the guidance in the calls. So for sure.
So Bob, you got anything from manufacturing point of view? Nothing?
No, we picked up. We had a decent week last week. This week is so. Looks like we're gonna have a good month. But yet to see the durable goods came in this morning. And it was, where did I write it down? Oh, there it is. 9.2 versus 1.6.
Wow.
But it was all transportation.
Oh, okay.
So it was 0.
Yeah. Here's your Fastenal. Here's your
Yeah.
Fastenal chart.
I noticed that's flirting with 52-week highs. This Faso.
This is gonna dump. This is a good short.
It's having trouble getting past its resistance, that's for
It's
sure.
not gonna go.
So, okay. How about Mike? You got anything, Mike? I saw he was out there. Mike? From New Jersey, Mike?
Yeah,
There he is.
nothing today. I'm just
Huh?
absorbing everything. I'm gonna look for some day trading. That's about it.
Yeah.
Stick to the indexes. There's way too much uncertainty out there to go into any one company.
There's a lot of uncertainty.
You know, and building on what I was speaking about yesterday with India, they're on the ready to they're ready to start throwing some punches. That will affect every market.
Well, it's coming out that there's, China's saying there's no discussions also with China. So that's what China's saying.
Yeah. Pay no attention to what China says. They're hamstrung in the corner.
Yeah, but it does swing markets and everything.
It's headlines.
The news.
Yeah.
The news.
Yeah. I mean, you think about just the difference between headlines this week so far.
Yeah.
One minute they're down, Monday they're down, Tuesday they're up. I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, Wednesday was up.
Wednesday was up, and then now today is not so good.
I don't think the market knows which way to go.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
No, it's
I think
broken. It's broken right now.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
say it's broken. I'd say it's searching. It's looking for what to do.
It
Well,
needs direction, and that direction is not coming from the Treasury or Powell or the Fed. It's just like we're doing. We're sitting on the sidelines and dipping in on little things. We're not in, for long term. I'm just waiting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the Tom Petty song. Waiting is the hardest part.
Waiting, yeah.
What a
Don't
great
do
song.
me like that.
That's what we should. Yeah, we should have a theme song when we start out these meetings.
You know, the market is so dependent on these tweets from Trump and other influencers, and the fact that they are switching around a lot. That's why the market's switching around a lot.
Yeah,
The
Yes.
market is not dependent on any tweets. The market reacts to them. There's a big difference
Right.
there.
I'm sorry for the choice of words, but yes.
Yeah.
I think that
It's-
was
yeah.
what you're implying, that when a
Yeah.
tweet or a press conference comes out, it moves it one way or the other.
Oh my God, and drastically.
Well,
know,
yeah,
dress-
and a lot of that, we've talked about before, the logarithms that are out there look for certain words and press releases and stuff, and try to get that extra edge on everybody. And people, I remember, when the Fed comes out with their meeting minutes, they count the number of letters and words and which words were changed and all that, and I mean, people don't have anything better to do.
Remember the Greenspan era where they measured the size, the thickness of his briefcase?
Yeah.
I mean, when you get down to that little stuff, it's like, really? Yeah. And the thing is, as technology has developed and trading has become more algorithmic, it is picking up those little key words.
Absolutely.
And that's what's moving a lot of what we're seeing today and creating the volatility we're seeing today. Yeah, I think we have to seek a foundation, elements and I think in the United States, it comes down to you and I, the consumer. We have to get comfortable with spending again. We have to get comfortable buying new equipment for our businesses. Once we start to see that, then we'll see a foundational structure start to come back in. But I think right now it's not there. It's not there at all.
Well, I think the charts, the technical piece shows us which companies tend to be stronger. You could certainly make cases for why, some I mentioned Palantir. There's some of these companies that are holding their own and their earnings are pretty strong. Vertiv came in with really positive earnings, as well as ServiceNow, and so did GEV. 3M came with earnings. Then IBM, GE Aerospace came in with good earnings. So yeah, I know that, the analysts changed their earnings, but if you technically speaking, you could look at some of these companies, you could see if they're holding their own from a trading standpoint.
IBM didn't.
Yeah.
They missed their numbers. IBM.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, IBM missed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's important. You look at technicals because it's a rear view mirror of what's happening and could be coming in the future. I think digging a little deeper in that below the surface, and that's where some of the fundamentals, but more of like what would cause an expansion in manufacturing. Palantir, prime example. What's causing that stock to move higher? Is it government contracts? Is it, what's causing it to still sustain its strength?
It's efficiency to companies. It's efficiency to companies.
We have an
software.
adapter.
What's that?
Hold on.
Got it.
So
Go ahead.
I think you see
it's efficiencies to companies and to the government. I mean, they pivoted about 6 months ago, Palantir. They were going after mainly government contracts, and their investors said, "What the hell are you doing? You could use this in the private sector," and they started doing that. And that's how, at the end of the day, how their stock has done a big turn up, but it's all about efficiency. But the thing that you have to be looking at is this next quarter coming up, how these tariffs are going to affect a lot of companies and the profit that they make. So software companies are software companies. There's no tariffs on software, right? At the end of the day, it's just intellectual property. But anybody that sells product, Target, Walmart, Bed Bath and Beyond, all these companies, there's going to be some big impact.
Yeah.
I saw it today, Whirlpool came out and they came out and said the tariffs are going to help them because they were talking that they produce domestically 70 to 75%. They're looking at this as being a good thing for Whirlpool.
Yeah. I would say that there are very few companies that you could say are going to do fine, but the high percentage is from overseas.
Yeah.
Street doesn't believe them.
Well, it didn't open yet.
You know what I mean, though. Look at.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but it's nice it hasn't gone past its support level. And now, the nine's caught up to it. So I'll be watching this to see what it does. Because if it could roll, it's got a ways to roll,
Yeah, I think you're looking at it from a swing versus a fundamental investment. This year,
Yeah,
looking at it from a swing trade.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it. But again, I'm not swinging anything right now just because it's just not worth it for me at this point. I'm not going to buck the trends. The trends are down. You just look at your moving averages, and even the 200's down on Whirlpool. I mean, the trend's your friend. We always talk about that, Paul.
Yeah. What other companies like Whirlpool? That's a good point. Are there any other companies that have the larger? It's made a lot in the United States. Like what other companies that
Yeah.
that manufacture?
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
Once you
I think
figure
that's
out
what
who's
this
going
is
to be
all
doing
about.
all of this, once you figure out who's going to be doing all of this construction here in the US, those are the long-term buys.
Boeing
They're-
makes the they don't make the few.
Boeing's
They make the
got,
engines.
they've got other things. GE makes the most engines, them and Pratt and Whitney.
Rolls Royce.
Rolls-Royce, yeah.
Yep.
Those are it,
I-
but you also have to take into consideration how much more demand is there going to be for new planes. And as this whole thing evolves, there's going to be some changes and some old things are going to get pushed out. And is it planes? How many more planes do we need in the world? You reach a saturation point with everything. I think you see this with the consumer too. They reach a saturation point. They don't want to spend money. Well, if you look around, I'm sure everybody's house, you got a pile of crap that you don't use, and you get rid
Right.
of.
Have you been to my
People-
house, John?
Shit, I'm just looking over my shoulder, man.
Yeah.
But you get to a point where you say, well, why am I spending any more money? I don't need to consume this stuff anymore. So,
Yeah.
you're getting that also blended into what's going on in the news and what have you. And you're seeing a reevaluation across the board, whether it's a company and what they make, but where are they going? The market is very short term.
But you look at brick and mortar.
Not to mention the
Like-
household debt that's out there, credit card,
Yeah, it
student loan,
keeps going
cars.
up.
Yeah.
Anybody go by a car dealership lately and see their lots?
They're loaded.
Yeah.
Need a new car? Give it
Yeah,
another 3 months.
loaded.
You're gonna
I've-
get a great deal.
I've seen commercials now where they're offering 0.5%.
Yeah,
I'm like, wow, I haven't seen that in a while.
I bought a minivan in 2008. The guy basically gave it to me.
I did the same thing. I bought it for cash, and the guy wouldn't
he
let
was
me leave the
drooling.
showroom.
He was drooling to get a sale.
Yeah, they're at that point.
You're gonna get to that point. It becomes an inflection point for the consumer, not the companies. The companies are at the inflection point because they're subject to the market conditions.
Bob, don't go walking into your BMW showroom. The guy's gonna make you buy a car.
I get an email every single day, Paul.
Hey,
This guy wants you to come in, but
I got 3 leases coming up this
Hey, Bob,
year,
you wanna
and
go
one's
have
up
fun?
next month.
Bob, you want to have fun? Go to 3 BMW dealers and see what kind of deal you can work out between them.
I know. It's just-
Before the financial crisis, I worked with this guy. He got a phone call. And 10 minutes later, he's talking to it. It's about a mortgage. They want to they want him to
Finance.
redo his mortgage.
Refinance.
Yeah. His wife got a call from the same company, a different salesman.
Yeah.
The two of them negotiated him down. And they didn't even know what they were doing. But that's what you're getting to. The point is everybody's going to be looking for the scraps. They want to sell. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter you're competing with your brother next door. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, the playing
Or
field
you-
is changing.
It's going to present some great opportunities from all
Yeah.
different aspects.
Yeah. Once you
Yes.
realize when the floor does hit and you need to anticipate a little bit and infer what's coming next. And that's where
Yeah.
you're going to find your deals. And some of the old school companies like an IBM, what I've heard, IBM is into quantum computing
Mhm.
and they do it quietly. Well, you got to look at it. Well, what else does IBM do? You never hear their name out there anymore.
Mhm.
What are they
Yeah.
doing? What substantiates that price?
I like
Well,
IBM.
It's like Bob pointed out, I think it was last week, about the coal industry.
Yeah.
And, if you look at some of the different companies that are involved in energy and what the demand on energy is going to be in the next, 3 to 10 years, there's some potential opportunities there.
Yeah, I heard a statistic yesterday. It was like currently one of the West Coast states or one of the where there's data centers, they use approximately 3% of the electricity, and they're forecast to use 99% within like 18 months or something like that, or 3 years.
Jeez.
I forget the
Well,
numbers
California-
exactly. but
California
that-
doesn't have that much.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does
Yeah.
that mean? You could have the best financials in the world. The macro could look great, but you ain't getting energy. You ain't getting no output.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
GVCO was saying, that it's the last time we seen this revamp of energy, not companies, energy, where they produce energy,
Production.
constructing of the infrastructure
The
was
grid.
in 1945.
I heard
So the-
earlier. I heard
Yeah,
earlier in the 30s.
But we're in that place now, right?
Yeah,
Well, I
and
was-
it-
I
and
was
it's
out of
never
power.
been.
I was
It's
out of
never
power
been
for 5
upgraded.
days, so I know about the grid.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't take much.
But that's going to be a growth area because the grid is the cornerstone of all of this. So who's going to do all the building? Who's going to make all the transformers and all of that stuff? Right now, if I remember correctly, the only place that makes these huge industrial transformers is in Germany. You blow one of them out, how long does it take you to get one as a company? You could be waiting 6 months.
Yeah.
That's a tremendous weakness in the system.
So talking
whoever
about,
whoever gets into this and starts looking at that and who's going to do all the construction and what have you of this, those are the growth. This is what, Kerry talks about, with the highways and the interstates. Well, who's mining everything? Who's going to build the
Whiting,
roads?
Turner, Bovis, there's a whole list of these guys that would be on the list of building these electric and fields out.
The
So
infrastructure.
the infrastructure, yeah.
You
In
find a
reference
couple
to
of them.
in reference to the coal I brought up the other day, coal mines, you have to find the ones. I'm in the hunt right now, but you have to find the ones. Not all of them are connected to the grid.
Yeah.
After further research, but there are a handful of them that are connected to the grid that provide.
Bob, my guess would be find the ones that Obama and Biden closed immediately, and those are the ones that are probably the most important with what you're looking for. Those are
Yeah.
the ones that you can flip the switch.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you gotta be able to read between the lines. Generally, it's 3 fingers.
Yeah. Anyway,
You know,
those
my-
are the ones that you need to be looking at if you're interested in investing in that.
Yeah. Mike, to your point about where transformers are made, I just did a general search on Grok. General Electric, US based, Siemens, Germany, Mitsubishi Electric, Japanese, Hayachi Energy is Japanese,
Hitachi.
Hitachi.
ABB Limited, Swiss, Eaton Corporation, US, Schneider Electric is
Yep.
French, and CG Power is Indian.
And don't follow up and say where they manufactured. Those are the companies and where they're located, but where they manufacture. From what I understand, GE stopped making that stuff a long time ago domestically.
Sure.
But still, all of those companies except GE are offshore. Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Oh, Eaton.
Yeah.
Eaton's not.
Yeah, Eaton, but I don't think those are for power.
Probably not.
Not for,
Doesn't-
not for large. Those are baby
Okay.
ones.
Doesn't
This
Eaton
is
make a lot of
interesting.
electrical switching and things like that you see
Yeah.
in like Home Depot and Lowe's?
Well,
Here's a answer to your
bigger
question,
than
Mike.
commercial.
General Electric, Atlanta, Georgia. Siemens, expanding facilities in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Expanding. Interesting.
Mitsubishi Electric, Memphis, Tennessee.
So they're starting to onshore them again. So
Yeah,
that's
Snyder.
interesting. That's very
Yeah,
interesting.
Snyder
Hayachi.
in my area.
To manufacture the transformers, it was 10 years ago, they were all made offshore. Every
Yeah.
single one of them. Because
Hitachi.
what was it? The Snowtober we had in like 24 or 20, 2006 or whatever. We blew out 2 transformers on our street and they were having a problem sourcing them.
Yeah.
So, and then again, I'm in a very densely populated area. It should be readily available. They only have so much. This is the just-in-time supply chain,
Yep.
which breaks down. You get a hiccup and the supply chain breaks down. And that's one of them. So it's
Yeah.
good to see that they're starting to manufacture that
Yep.
here again. But it's those things that you need to see within the bigger context of what Bob is saying and the strengthening of the infrastructure and getting that energy to it. You also have to look at that tangent of the issue. Supply chain,
Yeah.
if there's a problem, how you're going to fix it, how fast you are, how flexible you are. Those are the companies that are going to grow. As I think I said to Mark last week, my father was into manufacturing and he dealt with all of the defense stuff from after the Second World War, which was all built by Western Electric, part of the phone company. And he was deep involved in all of that, going to Greenland, Alaska, Canada, and Montana, nuclear silos, all of that, Cheyenne Mountain, the whole 9 yards. But there's no company like that anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Trump's trying to say with what he's trying to do is bring it back on shore, especially pharmaceuticals and other things that, that we need, and
yeah, well, that was brought out in COVID, everything was offshore. You couldn't get anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, before we go, I wanted to ask, Mike and Bob, you guys affected by those fires in New Jersey at all?
No.
No,
You're south.
Are you south, Mike?
No, I'm north. I'm north. I'm up by the shopping center of the world.
Oh, okay. So I'm down in the Red Bank area, which is
Central
right
Jersey.
Central. It's like, say they call it shore, but
It's not.
I'm more central in Jersey, and the fire is south of me, probably, I would say 30 miles, 40 miles south.
Okay,
Are these new
Where's
fires? Or the last month?
No, from right now.
right
Oh,
now,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
like
didn't know that.
2,500 acres.
Yeah,
And
it's-
I'm questioning why, because we've had a lot of rain.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
grounds are very moist and wet. It sounds like someone set a fire, but I don't know.
We're investigating that.
Yeah. It seems we don't have a lot of dry brush and stuff like that right now.
okay, well, I'm glad you guys aren't in it, because I saw that yesterday, and I thought of you too, well, and anyone else who's in New Jersey that's on the call, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna affect the shore traffic to the beach.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Are you
for
in New
sure.
Jersey now, Bob? Are you
Yeah, I
home?
am.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in Jersey right now.
You can tell because he's wearing the Steve Jobs outfit he
That's
wears.
right,
It's
yeah.
all black.
Yeah, he's not
Since
wearing his Hawaiian
my
shirt.
work
His New
outfit.
Jersey tone.
Yeah.
I noticed,
got
Mark,
it.
you're not on your yacht. You're not on Bob's yacht either.
No,
So-
no, Bob made me leave, but we're still in port though. We haven't sailed yet, so.
Trent,
Where-
it's not
Yes,
New
sir.
Jersey, it's Jersey.
Jersey,
Jersey.
Just Jersey.
Jersey.
Excuse me.
But if you listen to Mike, he sounds like he's from Staten Island.
I can sound like that, sure. Can also sound like I'm from Philadelphia.
I can sound like a big Southern hick if you like. You can come on down here, I'll feed you up, and put you out with the pigs.
When I hear Mike talk, I think I'm talking to, sometimes I think I'm talking to Tony Soprano.
Yo. I used to
All
live in
right, we're gonna
Hoboken.
wrap it up, folks.
Yeah,
I used to live in
All right,
Hoboken, a
tomorrow's-
lot of those
tomorrow's-
old schools.
tomorrow's Friday, guys, and be careful, and just be patient and don't rush it, don't chase it, and stick together. And I appreciate everyone's comments, and I know Trent does too.
Absolutely. Thank you all. All right, well, we'll see you tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Sounds
Bye,
good.
Peace,
guys.
everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Be good.